I don't have time for spirituality. My world is falling apart. Those were words that I repeatedly said to myself several years ago in 2017. And I had all of the nudges and urges to take some time, to slow down, to really connect with who I was. And I ignored them. And it didn't end particularly well for me until I really started to pay attention to my feelings, to connect again with my own spirituality. The world is kind of in that similar spot right now. And it's really, really hard to turn off or limit the news of story after story after story after story. But I want you to ask yourself this question. How is that helping to you just keep watching story after story after story? I'm Tara. I am a spiritual coach and teacher. And I want to talk about today not having the time, being too busy to deal with spirituality. Now, when I had my crisis, I had already been a certified spiritual teacher for almost 10 years at that point. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing it. I've got to be able to just focus on the stuff in front of me. But the only thing that happened was when I only focused on the stuff in front of me, it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I had an even bigger hole to dig out of. And I was dealing with grief. I was dealing with depression. I was not healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all of it. And so I had this giant hole to dig out of. If you're there, if you're in that giant hole, I want you to know it's possible to dig out of it. It's going to take some time, but what really is going to change it for you is for you to commit to it, to commit to the change. I had to. No one else could tell me or force me to. I had to decide to show up for myself. And that was really hard. I was so used to showing up for others and saying, but my stuff isn't as bad. My stuff isn't as bad as theirs. So I have to keep showing up. Well, what happened was I completely drained my own well, and I had nothing left to give. And that is where a lot of people feel right now. And it's a hard, awful place to be. Some of the things that started to change it for me was I acknowledged that I was sick of just surviving. I wanted to thrive. I wrote myself a letter and I apologized to myself. And I poured all my emotions that I was holding into that letter. And then I destroyed it. I never needed to read it again. Never. I did get through some self-help classes, some spiritual stuff. Started to kind of seep back in a little bit. I listened to Happy and Frozen on repeat. That was like the only two songs I was listening to constantly. And I also then started to listen to uplifting YouTube videos to podcasts to motivational speakers all the time. That was what was in the background for me. And slowly, I started to come back out of it because I chose that I wanted to thrive instead of just surviving. That is the point we are all in now. We get to choose, are we just going to bare minimum survive through what we're going through? Or are you going to step up and say, I don't know how I'm doing this, but I want to thrive? It's everybody's choice. Everybody's an individual choice. And no judgment. If you're still in survival and that's where you want to stay stuck, that's your option. If you want to thrive and say, yes, I am ready to do something different, then that's your option. It has to come from inside of you. One of the things that was the most profound for me when I was going through that is something really, really simple. I typically have always been, and I have gotten back to being a person who does bring comfort to others, to smile at everyone, to make people feel better. And I finally looked in the mirror and I smiled at myself. And I couldn't even do a full smile. It was just a little tiny smile. And so I did that for a little bit. And my jaw, I remember being so surprised that my jaw hurt from smiling because those muscles hadn't been used for so long. And I vowed then to myself, not to anybody else, that I would never let those muscles go slack again. And I haven't. I've had other ups and downs and other grief, and obviously we all went through COVID, so there was times I didn't smile. But I refused to go as long as I had in 2017 without smiling, even if it was just to myself, because I knew in the core of my being that that was something that I valued. And no matter the outside circumstances, no matter how bad they were, I wasn't gonna let myself down. This is also the first time I've publicly talked about this in this much detail. I've mentioned it sometimes, and I will admit it's still kind of hard to talk about, but I think it's really important because people are struggling right now, and it does seem like this is never ending and this is, complete gloom and doom. But one of the things that I learned is that if you stay in the gloom and doom, that is what you will keep getting. You have to take that little bit of effort, take that little bit of step to find something that is different than the gloom and doom. It's one of the reasons that this channel, I am well aware of what is going on right now. And I rarely mention pieces or only mention little snippets because I want this community to have this safe space to just come and be who you are in this moment without all of the chaos that is currently happening in the world. I want to be that little bit of a bright spark for you. That doesn't mean I will be Pollyanna and tell you that everything is just rosy and hunky-dory. It's not. But I will also say that the growth that I experienced during 2017, after coming out of that really into 2018, was some of the biggest growth of my life. And it had profound experiences and learning opportunities for me that I would be a very different person today if I hadn't experienced that. And so as we're in these turbulent, awful, chaotic times, I can also start to see beyond that. Are we going to have a lot of work to do? Oh my gosh, yes. And we get to start to build something we want, that we are proud of. And it's going to take time. It's going to take time to even just figure out all of the stuff going on right now in your own life, in the collective. And I still have hope for the future. And here's another reason why I have hope for the future. Because I told you coming out of 2019, I started to kind of get a little bit more back into spirituality. And at 2017, 2018 is when I kind of came out of it. And 2019, I was starting to feel a lot better. I started to get into astrology. And astrology has really helped me see patterns in my life in those really, really turbulent times. And all of the astrologers that I've listened to since then have talked about this year being turbulent. And even going back a few years, they were looking forward and saying, we don't know what's coming, but we can see, based on all these planetary alignments, that we potentially could be in for a rocky period. And we're in a rocky period. And how astrology predicts things is they look at that same alignment back in history and seeing what has happened. Now, one of the things that a lot of them have been talking about is when Pluto moved in from Capricorn into Aquarius late last year. And now we're in a 20-year cycle of that. And that had been the French Revolution, the American Revolution. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be the same type of thing this time. The other thing that they're talking about is there's so many different planetary alignments right now that they can't find a time in history that all of these planets are changing signs, being in opposition of each other to, kind of create havoc. So we are in uncharted territory. It was written in the stars. And when you look further out, it's this period of time. May it go into 26? Sure. But it's going to be different. We're going to be moving. We're going to be shifting. And that's what we're doing in our own lives too. We can't go back. Part of why I was so upset and so lost is I had lost my maternal grandparents, who I saw almost every single day, if not every single day, certainly every week. And they were truly like another set of parents for me. Although a bit like, grandparents, so I got away with a little bit more. But that was devastating to me. And what really surprised me is it was 2 years after Grandma died and 3 years after Grandpa died. No, Grandpa died in 13, Gram died in 15. And then I had my huge breakdown in 17. Because I was so wrapped up in mourning the past and mourning the loss of what was going to come forward. They weren't going to be at family dinners. They weren't going to be there for my birthday anymore. They weren't going to be there for holidays. We get stuck in the grief, oh my gosh, I want it to go back to this. I want it to go back to these times. These times made sense to me. These times I had everybody I wanted around me. We can't go back. We have to move forward. So we get to decide, are we moving forward by just surviving this life? Or are you choosing to decide to thrive in this life? This, regardless of past lives, all of that, this is your life right now. Are you making the most of it? Or are you letting fear of what could happen or what was, the regret of what was or what could have been, hold you back? That is a choice each of us has to make. And it's hard and it's crappy. And I believe in this life and the amazing things that you and I both can do and accomplish still in this life. We just have to do it for ourselves first. If you are still watching me at this point, I thank you. I am so grateful to all of my subscribers, new and people who have been around for a little bit. I haven't been on this YouTube channel for a while because I was scared. I didn't want to put myself out there. And I finally got to the point like, no, I'm doing this. I am putting myself out there as a spiritual teacher because I feel like I have something to offer other people. And you do too, no matter what it is. Maybe it's being a great mom or a great aunt. Maybe it's creating something, inventing something. Maybe it's being really, really creative. We chose to come here. And I don't know about you, but I'm not wasting this life anymore by just surviving. I'm thriving. Sure, are there moments that knock me off that path of thriving? Yup. And I've hit some of those recently, those kind of bumpy times. Still kind of in some bumpy times for me personally. And I'm still ready to thrive. And I am thriving. Please think about, for you, are you ready to thrive? Or are you choosing just to survive? Please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe button. I am trying to grow my channel. And I want to be here to help you on your journey to thriving. Because it's possible. We know it is. And we know there's going to be bumps along the road. And I'm still choosing to thrive. What about you? If you've watched any of my videos, you know I end with a self-hug. Self-hug. We've got this. As crappy and crazy and chaotic as it is, we've got it. We're going to do it moment by moment, day by day. Let's join and do this journey together. and join arms. I missed the arms. Sorry. Join arms and walk this path together. Bye for now. I will see you on the next video.